Okay, hello everyone. Hope you are having a wonderful weekend. Here I am, another WOTV video, and today we're going to be taking a look at the most recent updates for JP in a general fashion, and who's making some of the biggest waves on JP, because at this point, Final Fantasy V has been out long enough that each of the characters have kind of been around and are, the updates for some of the older characters, the FF5 characters. People have been experimenting with them, and yeah, that's kind of here what we're going to be talking about today in all of its glory. So yeah, personally, I have been. We'll just start a little bit with something from my perspective, which is basically a bit of a dilemma. So recently, as in basically today, I decided to just nuke a lot of parties kind of thing. I basically went through and cleared out everything that I have, all my parties, and I'm rebuilding them from scratch, trying to update them, with new characters and some new vision cards to see what works and what doesn't, and how I like my parties, and whether I don't like my parties, and kind of deciding which elements I'm really prioritizing for the future, because doing all of them at this point just doesn't feel that great. And I'm personally thinking of like, hey, what if we combined a couple of elements? Ice and water usually have good synergy because they have some overlapping VCs and characters, and hey, what about dark and light? Let's try that kind of thing. And in the background we'll always have this thing of like thunder and wind, and then fire and earth, kind of, but as sub elements, not where I'm putting my highest priority. So yeah, for me, some of the stuff I've been wanting to try out is lightning in combination with Bartz, but I've been waiting for the Pixel update remaster this week to see how lightning fares from it. Next, I've been wanting to try Ferris with Reagan, because I haven't noticed any like water ice combination stuff yet, and I was curious whether there was anything potentially there. Now, there might not be, but my Reagan is not fully complete yet. My Ferris isn't complete, which brings me to the next thing about talking about my recent account woes, is deciding where I want to spend my Final Fantasy V orbs. At this point, I have Bartz up here, and I have about 400 orbs, as you can see I'm 107, so basically I can snap this character up to 120 or 140 if I even wanted to. Whereas on the other side, I actually have the exact same, whoops, I clicked on the wrong character there. The exact same situation with Ferris as well. I actually have Ferris and Bartz, and I can't decide which one I want to do more in terms of getting them to 140 first, because getting them both to like 115 is kind of boring. I feel like I should commit one way or the other, and I feel like water's probably the correct option, but I'm just a little indecisive. And let's talk about why I'm indecisive. See, I am actually getting around to the point of this video, which is to do with some of the weird stuff that's been going on with JP. The four most impactful characters that I want to talk about today, from what I have seen, are the 3 Final Fantasy V characters, and last but not least, I want to talk about Cadia, because Cadia is the lower cost elemental character that recently, became 140, and like her against Earth and Dark seems to be making some waves in JP. I mean, you look at the most common usage stats, and we'll just show this user here if you want to be able to find his videos. For JP, the 2 most highest use elements are Earth and Dark, and for good reason. Raph and Sephiroth and whoever is an amazingly strong Dark team, whereas King Bradley, who just recently came out on Global, plus bigger Earth characters, are very strong mono elemental teams that just excel really, really fiercely and are some of the most highly represented teams in both offensive and defensive capabilities for competitive stuff on JP. So you think that there would be a long desired answer, and with Glassy about to get her 140, one of the strongest characters in the game should probably going to get even better, right? Glassy is still ranked very highly by most JP WOTV sites, and for the correct reason that she is just really strong. It's just that with some of the other stuff that's been coming around, hey, maybe needed a little bit more to really get there. And Cadia seems to do that because the amount of earth and dark resistance you can give, it's a very specific response, as I noted in my initial video, but as it turns out, it's kind of exactly what you want in the current meta with the way that everybody has been investing for the last few months. Now on global, you might see a little bit different, but as you can see here, this team is no slouch when it comes right down to it. This is basically a build with more durability because it has Dialdo in it, but you can see here that unlike another wind healer, Cadia still does a pretty good job of attacking and offensive, and you're looking at a very low cost team for very high effectiveness against most elemental teams that are out there, which is really interesting. And just skipping ahead a bit to a match against Dark, now just not gonna load. This team works surprisingly well against such high-costed and high-powered teams, which I think also is just very, very noteworthy of how effective it can be. And this might be wins in to actually providing more balance on JP, because currently it does feel a lot of the time like JP has really shuffled towards these two elements fighting head on head most of the time, but with wind in there, it might actually bring ice back in and give a little more leeway to some other elements too. But yeah, Dark just needing such a particularly good answer. And as you can see, this team, pretty good results overall. Again, it is built for a very specific element, but I think right now is an incredibly high opportunity time to potentially just leverage this and get a fair amount out of it. Like, it just is so good at exploiting. And you look at what's here. Interestingly, the new Final Fantasy V VC, which has made its way in here, the speed card, 290 cost. See, so definitely there is something propping this team up, but overall, not the most unreasonable build or the highest cost build, and even for just general costs, feels pretty efficient all in all. But yeah, Cadia, I think, is one of the ones that has been the most surprising. And with that being said, I'm going to jump back out from this and talk about our next character, which is Elena. Elena, who is on the wind element for the longest. Obviously, she's a very good healer, and her re-raise ability is very strong. The question is, where exactly did it fit on everything that's currently going on right now? And as it turns out, Elena seems to be pretty at home with Dark, particularly with Wrath and Sephiroth, for the very, very, very straightforward reason that Sephiroth is very powerful. Sephiroth is very strong. Sephiroth is very capable of killing opponents. The team with Cadia. But Sephiroth with re-raise is actually more scary than you would think, and with some powerful heals behind Sephiroth and Wrath, it's a very, 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 very good team. And so Elena has kind of found this interesting spot of being shuffled in a little bit more with Dark elemental teams to give A, some more consistent healing, B, just re-raise on one of the best characters in the game who didn't need it, but it's a very welcome thing, And yeah, Lena just is a very interesting character for Dark. Now, we've talked about Dark, we talked about Wind enough. Let's talk about Light and Bartz, because Bartz has very clearly just become best friends with the very obvious character. Like, there's a very, very obvious synergy with Bartz, with Wing Stern, who is coming out very soon on Global. And I think that will be a major selling point for people who want Wing Stern. Hey, guess what? Down the line, you get Bartz, and they work really well together. Great. That's the end of the story. Bartz plus the FF5 card plus Warrior of Light plus Bartz plus Bartz VC, the Wind Dragon VC, is a totally viable option. But just because that happens doesn't mean that someone out there isn't going to try something really weird. And here it is, Peachin trying out something to do with a combination of thunder and light, which is a really thing. Especially with Lightning getting her 140 soon, it will really push Lightning once again to being a strong alternative. So let's take a look at this. This is a match against Dark, and I want to highlight really quickly just how dumb this can be. So you can see the Dark team basically goes through, and this is the most standard Dark Elemental team that you'll end up seeing nowadays. It's just the way it is. So we have in here, and look at this. Wait a minute. What the hell just happened, right? So as it turns out, if you stack just the right stuff on Bartz, the absolute right equipment and everything like that, and put him with any range character in possibly any element, you get this kind of thing. And when the VCs align very strongly, really, really dumb things can happen. Bartz by himself is just pretty powerful and pretty darn strong. And this by no means is this team going to be a absolute game breaker, but it is really interesting and fun to watch this stupidness kind of occur, where follow-up attacks still will have Bart's follow-up attack, providing that he is in proper range and everything like that. So you look at how this team operates, and by all means, check this video out. By this point, I think everybody knows Peachin's account, so I'm not even going to bother. As you can see, it doesn't necessarily always work, and I think that Lightning's 140 will probably make this more consistent into the future. Like, I think it's even worth potentially going more multi-element than it currently is, since Bart's VC has pretty high range of who it will work with. You look at this with the combination of the Genji Glove, the Human Killer, like basically stacking a ton of Human Killer and offensive power. This is a really, really reasonable team to end up making. It is, yes, it is a limited thing, but I think you can actually switch out, possibly for just a different character. I haven't really thought about it too much, but I am starting to think more about it. But just seeing this is really, really cool, that this kind of, that Final Fantasy V is not only been so interesting, but so flexible with where the characters are ending up and the kind of dumb shit that they are doing, which I always appreciate. And that brings us to our last one to talk about today, which is Ferris, who so far, I've seen her on teams with Preen, and I've seen her on teams with Analyst, and yes, that team is pretty successful. It is pretty powerful, and it is very, very capable and durable. It still suffers against some of the more tough matchups in the game. I wouldn't say that Ferris has really pushed water into being absolutely OP, but Ferris is a very, very strong character, and to me, I'm still kind of waiting to see, like, once I have some other characters developed, like, I'm interested in putting her with Reagan. I'm interested in, like, doing some combination of potentially water and ice, or looking at the different elemental characters and how those VCs shape it. But taking a look at where Ferris can end up, I mean, against fire, basically kind of a win where you would expect, but still can end up very strong against light. This is another example of a very, very powerful team that someone has put a lot of work into building, with a combination of Astrius as well as Ferris and Celeste, which, you know, at this point, Celeste really wasn't broken before, and sorry, poor choice of words, wasn't a bad option before, but is still pretty strong now. And you can see that the combination of Ferris with Celeste is a really tough even just get through. So yeah, at the end of all of this, and bringing it back around to just talking about my experience, obviously, like, Elena, I think, has found, I mean, she's good in wind, but she feels even better in dark. Cadia might be the absolute strange to say, but Katya might be the big meta breaker that a lot of people have been looking for. And in combination with the Dario and her at 140, with Glassy getting her 140, might be the new win team to beat. Maybe. We'll see. But it is exciting to hear that something like that can put up a lot of strength against Earth and Dark, who are currently gripping JP. As for Light, I mean, Bartz works really well in Light, but obviously Bartz has a lot of fun potential. I would say, like, at the end of this video, that probably Bartz ended up being the most fun character out of all of them, since he has so much wide application across multiple elements and multiple teams, and the more job BCs that support him, the happier I am. Seriously, like, I dig something there, but shout outs to that. And last but not least, like, Ferris is interesting, but I mean, for me right now, I'm at a crossroad of deciding whether I want to go down the Bartz route or the Ferris route, because both are potentially really cool and interesting. I just haven't decided where I want to go yet. So if you want to weigh in, do you think Bartz, Lena, Ferris, or, well, let's just leave Cadia as supreme at this point and not bring her into this. But which of the Final Fantasy V characters, given maybe some new information that I've given you, are you the most interested in, and who should I upgrade? Ferris or Bartz? Should I do the fun route or the possible less tested route? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time.